Hey everyone. Today let us discuss the designing test task to measure second language grammatical ability by Purpura 2004. Task characteristics play a crucial role in shaping how learners interact with grammar assessments and how well they perform. The tasks are designed influences not only engagement but also the accuracy of performance results. For example, if a student may struggle with a grammar test not because they lack grammatical knowledge but because the test format is unfamiliar or too complex. Next, a well designed assessment should reflect students' actual grammatical abilities rather than their ability to interpret unclear test instructions. If test tasks match real life language use, such as writing an email or completing a conversation, they provide a more accurate measure of proficiency. According to Clapham 1996, he she highlighted that specific characteristics of test materials significantly affect test performance. One of her key findings was that reading comprehension scores were influenced by how closely the text aligned with test takers' prior knowledge. For instance, if a reading passage is about a highly technical topic like astrophysics, students with a background in science may score higher, not because they have better grammar skills, but because they understand the subject matter better. This creates a bias in assessment results. To minimize this, test designers should select neutral and widely accessible topics. A passage about daily routines or travel experiences ensures that the test measures grammar knowledge rather than familiarity with specialized content. Next. Mm, a critical step in test development is defining exactly what the test is measuring. If tasks are unclear or not well defined, the assessment may end up testing unintended skills. For example, in a business English course, students might need to write professional emails. A grammar test for these students should focus on grammar used within emails, such as proper sentence structure and formality, rather than testing grammar in unrelated contexts like poetry analysis. By specifying the expected language use scenario, for example, formal reports, everyday conversation, or academic writing, test designers can create tasks that truly reflect the grammatical skills required in those situations. A well designed test task should provide strong evidence of grammatical ability. If a task is too ambiguous or poorly structured, it may not accurately assess the intended skill. Next. Back Bachmann and Palmer 1996 proposed a framework with five key aspects. These are the settings, rubrics, input, and expected response and input response relationship. The setting is the condition under which the test is taken, whether online, paper based, timed, or untimed. The rubrics is the instruction given to students, including scoring criteria. And the input is the material students must engage with, such as a reading passage, a conversation, a set of sentences. And the expected response is the format of students' answers, for example, a multiple choice, short answer, or essay. Lastly, input response relationship, how well the task allows students to demonstrate their grammar skills. Oh. For example, if a grammar test asks students to correct errors in a paragraph, the expected response should clearly reflect their ability to recognize and fix grammatical mistakes. If the task is too vague, such as simply asking students whether a sentence sounds right, it may not provide strong evidence of their grammar knowledge. Next, a good grammar test should ensure that Variations in student scores reflect actual grammatical ability rather than external factors like unclear instructions or poor task design. For instance, if a grammar test includes multiple choice questions with confusing answer choices, students might get lower scores not because they lack grammar knowledge, but because the test format is misleading. Clear and straightforward instructions help prevent this. Another important aspect is task relevance. If students are tested on grammar structures they would never use in real life, the test loses validity. A well designed task for English learners in the workplace might involve writing a professional email rather than identifying parts of speech in isolated sentences. To claim that a student has a particular level of grammar ability, there must be a solid evidence from their test responses. A test should generate answers that allow evaluators to assess grammar proficiency with confidence. For example, an essay writing task provides strong evidence of a student's grammar skills because it requires them to use correct sentence structure, verb tense, and word order in a meaningful way. In contrast, a multiple choice question asking students to select the correct verb form only shows their ability to recognize the correct answer. It doesn't necessarily prove they can use it in writing or speech. Clearly defined and operationalized tasks allow for systematic evaluation of grammar knowledge, making assessment results more reliable and useful for informing instruction. Next, grammar assessment should go beyond simple recognition of rules and focus on actual language use. A task based approach ensures that students demonstrate their grammar ability in meaningful contexts. For example, instead of just asking students to identify verb tenses in isolated sentences, a more effective task might ask them to describe a past experience in writing. This requires them to correctly use past tenses in a natural way. Next, in a speaking test, rather than asking, "What is the past participle of go?" a better question would be, "Tell me about a trip you took last year." This approach integrates grammar with real life communication. Grammar tests can include different types of tasks, each serving a specific purpose. For example, first, the selected response tasks, for example, the multiple choice questions, it is quick and easy to grade, but may not show deeper understanding. Second, the limited production tasks, or the fill in the blank sentence completion. It requires students to produce language but still within a controlled format. Lastly, the extended production tasks, such as writing an essay, giving a spoken response, provide the most realistic measure of grammar use but take longer to evaluate. For example, if the goal is to test how well students use conditionals, a multiple choice question might ask them to select the correct verb tense. However, a better task might ask them to write a few sentences about what they would do in a certain situation, requiring them to use conditional structures naturally. Ensuring fair and accurate grading is critical in grammar assessment. Without clear guidelines, different raters might score the same response differently. To avoid this, tests should use well defined rubrics that outline specific scoring criteria. For example, if grading an essay, a rubric might include correct use of verb tenses, sentence structure, and word choice and clarity. Additionally, raters should receive training to ensure consistency. If one teacher penalizes minor mistakes while other overlooks them, the test results won't be reliable. Regular calibration sessions where raters compare scores and discuss differences help maintain fairness. Next, effective grammar assessment depend on well-designed tasks that accurately reflect students' abilities. A strong test ensures that performance differences are due to actual grammatical proficiency rather than test format or unrelated factor. Using Bachman and Palmer's framework allows educators to create valid, reliable assessments that align with real world language use. By focusing on clear task design, relevant test content, and fair scoring, teachers can develop assessments that genuinely measure students' grammar skills and support their language learning goals. To conclude, how educators should consider how well their tests reflect real life grammar use. Second, whether tasks provide clear evidence of students' abilities. And lastly, how scoring methods ensure fairness and consistency. So that is all for my presentation. Do you have any questions? Okay, thank you. Now, after this discussion, I hope that all of you would answer these open questions for an open discussion. And that is all. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good day, everyone.